Alright, geometry, here we go with our in-class 55 notes, and this is going to be on using trig to solve for sides, okay? So we have that constant reminder that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine of an angle is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and then the tangent of an angle is the opposite over the adjacent, okay? Some say SOHCAHTOA to help them remember that, okay? So today we're going to work on solving for a missing side, okay, whether it's a leg or a hypotenuse. So first I would identify from the angle that we're given, what are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So from our angle here, always go with my hypotenuse first, across from my right angle, okay? So that makes this the opposite and the adjacent side. So which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse would be the sine. This time we have sine of 28 degrees equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse, which is 21. So to solve for x, multiply both sides by 21. Okay, throw it in your calculator. Okay, make sure again your mode is in degrees. So let's make sure, we haven't done this yet, so make sure go to mode, which is right here, next to your blue button, and you're in degrees. Well, you guys don't have a graphing calculator, so you should be okay. So when you throw in 21 sine of 28, get 9.86 to the nearest hundredth. Always go to the nearest hundredth, so remember you're looking at the third decimal place. If it's 5 or higher, you bump it up. If not, you leave it alone. And we're going to put centimeters on there since it gives us a measure. Okay. Next one, again, identify hypotenuse, and then my opposite and adjacent. You can do that in whatever order you want. It's just my order. Okay. So I want to know my opposite. I need my adjacent, so that would be tangent of 41 degrees equal to x over 11. Okay, always write that initial equation. And then what are you doing to both sides? You're multiplying by 11. Okay, when you throw that in your calculator, you get 9.56. And we're in centimeters again. Okay, next we've got hypotenuse here, opposite and adjacent. So cosine of 53 degrees is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And solve. So when you throw it in your calculator, you get x is equal to 18.05. Okay, again, this is a video, so at any time feel free to pause and try some on your own. Okay, and then just make sure you hit play because now we're going to have where our denominator is not a number. Okay, so hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Okay, so we need adjacent and opposite, so that's tangent of 62 degrees is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so this one we don't divide by 24, right? X is in our denominator, so if you think about it, you're multiplying both sides by x. So if you have x tangent of 62 degrees equal to 24, your last step then would be to divide by tangent of 62 degrees. Okay, and when you throw that in your calculator, so we can see both, we get x equal to 12.76. Okay. Next one, I've got my hypotenuse, opposite to the 34, adjacent to the 34. So I need adjacent and hypotenuse, which gives me cosine of 34 equal to 18 over x. So again, I'm going to multiply both sides by x and then divide by cosine of 34 degrees. And if you want to rewrite that as a separate statement, you can certainly do that. Like I did on this one, I rewrote it, okay? Or you can do it this way, it's fine. and to the nearest hundredth, you get 21.71. I guess I should be putting centimeters on all of these because they're giving us a measurement. So I'll put centimeters on that. Okay. Last one on this page, and then we've got one more page here. So hypotenuse, from that angle, I've got the opposite and adjacent there. Okay, so opposite and hypotenuse means I'm using sine of 28 degrees is equal to 13 over x. So multiply by x, divide by sine of 28. Okay, and then when you throw that in your calculator, you get 27.69 centimeters. Okay, turn the page or look to the next side. We've got some more practice. Solve for missing information labeled with an X in each triangle again. So at this point, you might be more comfortable after having done the second row of problems on that first page. Give it a try, maybe pause it, and then hit play to make sure that you check it. Okay, so I've got my hypotenuse, my opposite, and adjacent. So that would mean I need to use the sine of 33 degrees, which is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So again, to get rid of the fraction, I multiply both sides by the denominator. And when I throw that into my calculator, I get 12.53 centimeters. Okay, next one. Hypotenuse here from 48, that's my opposite and adjacent. The only one that doesn't use the hypotenuse is tangent, so tangent of 48 degrees is equal to 12 over x. So I'm going to have to multiply both sides by x here, and then divide by tangent of 48 to get x alone. Okay, and doing that gives me 10.8 or 80 centimeters. No, you wouldn't have to have the 0. It's just since it's set at 100th, I include the 0. Okay, example C. I've got my hypotenuse. From 43, there's my opposite and adjacent. Adjacent and hypotenuse uses cosine, so cosine of 43 degrees is equal to x over 15. So multiplying both sides by 15. Throwing that in my calculator, I then can get 10.97 centimeters. Okay. And again, if you weren't sure yet, hopefully now, by this point, you're ready to try those last three. And I will zoom out and give all the answers at one time once we wrap this up. Okay, so I've got my hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. Okay, so sine of 50 uses the opposite and hypotenuse, so equal to x over 8. So multiplying both sides by 8, I get x equal to 6.13 centimeters. Okay. Next, I've got my hypotenuse over here, opposite and adjacent. So again, tangent's the only one not using the hypotenuse, so tangent of 23 degrees is equal to 8 over x. X in my denominator, so I have to multiply both sides by x, and then divide by tangent of 23. Always write that initial statement out first. Okay, cancels that, giving me x is equal to 18.85 centimeters. Everything happens to be in centimeters, but it could be in inches or whatever. Just label whatever they give you for the unit. Okay. Next one, hypotenuse, opposite side, adjacent side, which tells me that's cosine. So cosine of 33 degrees equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So multiply both sides by x and divide by cosine of 33. So essentially you're just switching those, right? but I always get that initial statement first, okay? So x then, when I throw that in my calculator, I get 7.15 centimeters. Okay. And the last one, just a little review, angle of elevation and angle of depression. So name an example of an angle of elevation. Remember, angle of elevation would be, for example, here, I'm looking down. Okay, so my angle of elevation, an example would be angle FLS. Okay, and an angle of depression is looking upward. So my angle here with S, so angle LST, angle of depression. Okay, and that wraps up our lesson on using trig to solve for sides with a little bit of review in there with the angle of elevation and angle of depression. Oops, sorry, I said I would zoom out in case you paused the video for this whole page. And that is what that would look like for your answers in there. Okay, so that's A, B, C, D, E, F answers. Okay, so you should now be able to go ahead and complete the homework.